Hello everyone. So, all okay? We'll be doing the next part of the remaining part of the poetry, and we end today the poem that is the roadside stand. Now let's see. We were the other day we finished till the line is on page 101 till 27. That is where they won't have to think for themselves anymore, while greedy good doers, beneficent beast of prey. Okay, here we completed, and they were talking about the rich people, and then they greedy doers. They are the rich ones who are considered or designated as so, and they are behaving as beast, and the poor village flocks, they are as if they fall as prey in the hands of these rich people, and they are not benefited. Now let's see from from line 28 onwards. That is, swarm over their lives, enforcing benefits that are calculated to soothe them out of their wits. Swarm means group, swarm of bees you have heard of. So what is he saying? That just like the flies gather, in short, swarm means gather. So just like the flies gather over or swarm over the sweet or any sweet object, so do these people, who the people having power. Or what do? These people, the urban or the rich people, they hover, they try to attack as the bees swarm on the sweet. Similarly, these people, rich people, hover over the rural people. These people are innocent, and for why? For what? For their own benefits. I repeat this again. Swarm over their lives, enforcing benefits. Swarm over whose lives? The rich people swarm like bees or flies, okay, over this rural people for their own benefits, that they are calculated to soothe them out of their weeds. Okay, and they are calculated. They are always self-centered. So everything, whatever are they doing for the rural people, they are all showing off. Actually, they want themselves to be benefited. So then let's see, that is on 30th and 31st line. And by teaching them how to sleep, they sleep all day, destroy their sleeping at night the ancient way. Here, what is he saying? That they have distracted the rural people from the harsh realities. Okay, they have, because these rural people, they are very innocent. They are not aware of the modernized ways and things. And these rich ones or the urban people, what do? By different temptations, they are trying to distract these rural people. And what are they doing? They are keeping them away from the harsh realities or facts of real life. And so these people don't understand, and because of that, what happens is they are raised to a certain, and because of that, these rural people don't question the rich ones. They have such a manipulating power, a temptating power these rich ones have, that with the help of sweet words and so on, they try to tempt the villagers or the poor people, and then these people are brought in such a condition that their poor ones cannot raise any uncomfortable questions against the rich ones. And so what happens? They these rich ones relax, they have a sound sleep and so on, and the other ones, that is the rich poor ones, they are deprived from their sleep. Sometimes I destroy their sleep at night the ancient way. Now, what is this ancient way they is talking about? Ancient way is referring to the lifestyle. Lifestyle of what? Lifestyle of, in ancient way, what happened is, what was the lifestyle? People used to work throughout the day to earn their living, and then when end of the day they get exhausted, and then what happens is they return to their home and have a sound sleep. But here what happens is, rural flock are slowly and gradually they are affected by the cities money minded attitude, the ancient way of living, that whatever labor they can do, whatever hard work they can do, they'll work throughout the day, and whatever they get with that minimum amount, they will try to feed themselves, and then next day again work. So they were peaceful, they were not greedy for anything. But now, because of the temptation of these rich people, what happened is, poor people or the rural people have been affected by the city's money mindedness, money minded tendencies, and so what happens, they have become greedy, and so they have lost their sleep, and their sleep is in short disturbed, and they are because their sleep is disturbed, what happened, they have started making their own dreams, they have started dreaming of what, of superficial lifestyles, so they are not relaxed. That's what is told in the lines, that is 30th and 31st line. Next, sometimes I feel myself I can hardly bear the thoughts of so much childish longing in vain. Okay, so what is he saying? That here the poet has become emotional. Sometimes I is who? The poet. So he's saying that sometimes I feel myself I can hardly bear. What's he saying? The poet has become emotional as looking at the condition of the villagers, and so he wishes to find some solution. So what does he think? That at one attempt, if money is the problem for them, so at one attempt, he feels that he will pay everything, he'll give them the money, and might be the problem would come to an end. So he is saying that what is he finds, that for a customer there is just an obsession. Why the poet is sad for the people? Why has he become emotional? Because he sees that for the rich people, these poor people are what, or in other words I would say, the customer for these rural people has become an obsession. They are anxiously waiting day and night that some passers-by in the car would stop and buy something from them, and in exchange they would get the money, and with the help of that money they'll get a life, superficial of course, the life what they have dreamt of. And so what is he saying? That this obsession slowly and gradually turns up to be what? Turns up to be a failure. Why? Because these people never stop, and even if they stop, it's for their own requirement. So here in these two lines, the poet is very feeling emotional, is very sorry, the thought of so much childish longing in vain. Like a child, these people are waiting and waiting, and the thought that the customer will come, and so all at the end of the day, or ultimately the poet finds that it's all in vain. And then in the next line, the sadness that lurks near the open window there, that waits all day in almost open prayer. The poet is himself, as I told you in the line, deeply affected and hurt. And so what is he finding? Why is he hurt? Because he is observing the villagers, and he finds that these villagers are very badly, sadness lurk, they are they are very sad, and they are disappointed. And as they are sad, each time as the car passes by, they seeing the car, they become hopeful. Yeah, the car will stop, something from me they will buy. But the car does not stop, they do not buy anything, and so these people, the villagers, become hopeless again, and they wait for the customer. Here is considered as a prayer. They are anxiously praying to God. Oh God, let these cars, because continuously it's a highway, cars are passing, people are there, but no one is waiting. So that any of the customer wait before them, that is it is considered as a prayer by the poet, but the passers-by are callously ignored. These passers-by callously ignore them, whom? The villagers. And however, this all thing is vain. And that is why the sadness, it is telling that the sadness that lurks near the open window, open-hearted people these are. But what is there in the heart? That is sadness which is prevailing over there, and that they are waiting all day. That waits all day. This in almost and prayer, praying anxiously that someone would stop. Next, or for the squeal of brakes, the sound of a stopping car, for all the 1,000 selfish cars that pass, just one to inquire what a farmer's price are. So here, what is he saying? That farmer is eagerly waiting. As I told you in the previous line, it's the customer. They are obsessive for a customer. Okay, and so they are waiting for the customer is considered as a prayer. And here in this line also, the poet is telling that the farmer is eagerly, the villagers are eagerly waiting to hear the squeal of the tires. Right? Because why they are anxious? Because as soon as the tires would stop, they would hear the sound, means, or the sound of the brake, means the car has stopped. That's why they are very eager to hear the sound of the brake or squealing of the tires, and with an expectation that the car would stop by. And why? Because he is hopeful that at last, whenever a car stops, there some ray of hope develops in their heart or in their mind, and they are hopeful. So at last, and they are eager that out of thousands, 1 or 2 cars stop there. So some hope develop in the heart of these people. But then what happened is that these people are selfish. Out of 1,000 selfish cars, even if 1 or 2 stops, and this arises hope in the minds of these poor villagers. But what happened is that even if these people have stopped, it is not as a customer they have stopped to buy the goods from the people, but they have stopped for what? They have stopped to inquire about the price of the goods they are selling? No, they have stopped there for their own requirements. So, he is saying to inquire all this thing. And squeal of brakes, the sound of a stopping car, for all the 1,000 selfish car that pass, just one to inquire what a farmer's prices are, what they are selling. No one has stopped to inquire about the prices. And one did stop, but only to plow up grass, in using the yard to back and turn around, and another to ask the way to where it was bound. So what is he saying? That out of thousands, one did stop, but as I told you, for their own requirement, for their own benefit. And what is it? That no one was least bothered about what the things are sold in the roadside stand or under the shade, whatever things are sold. No one even asked for that or gave a look to the things which are sold. But what happened is that they stopped for what? To clear the engine. Might be the engine must have got stuck up. So they have stopped to clear the engine, and then might be to take a turn, and because the shades are over there, and or at the same time the grass, crushed grass is stuck up in the tires. So maybe to remove that, they have stopped. Not for the villagers have they stopped. So they is saying this, even if out of thousands car, one of them have stopped, but that is for their own benefits. And in using the yard to back and turn, and another to ask the way to where it was. Someone has stopped to ask the way, because we are told in the initial stage, these people have put direction north, south and so on, and they've been scolded because they are illiterate, uneducated, and so many have stopped also to ask where the road goes, or to ask the destination or the distance or the way. And another to ask, could they sell it a gallon of gas? They couldn't this crossly, they had none, didn't it see? Okay, so here another car stopped. Okay, and what is he saying? That he is saying here the villagers' anger is expressed in this line. How the villagers are annoyed. He is saying that seeing these people not paying heed. Heed means attention at them or the things. How inhuman they are. How insignificant they are. What sort of distance is created between these rural and the urban people. So he is saying that, what is he saying? That in using another to ask, they sell it a gallon of gas. So he is saying that few have stopped. No one in the country is too good. So he is saying that few have stopped, but for what? Is saying to ask whether they can fill the gas or what. So these people are very badly hurt. That can't they see? Crossly means angrily is saying that can't they see that we not selling any gas or we cannot fill the gallons. Then what for did they stop? So here the anger of the farmers are expressed. No, in country money, the country scale of gain, the requisite lift of spirit, they never been found, or so the voice of the country seems to complain. So here poet is trying to say what? That the business of this countrymen is not so profitable. Because all day they want, they are selling very small things just to earn their living. So whatever business they are doing, it's not so profitable. Hardly they gain to make the two ends meet. So he's saying that this business is not so profitable. They do not earn as the rich ones do in the cities. And so the luck also doesn't favor these people. Even if they are trying to earn by not odd means but by their hard labor, still luck is not favoring them and no one is stopping to buy their goods. So however hard work they do, they are not able to earn or they are not benefited to enjoy the lifestyle as the city flock. So that is what is expressed in this line, that no in country money, the country scale of gain. Means they are not able to gain anything and this business is not profitable and the requisite lift of spirit has never been found. Luck has never favored him and so the voice of the country seems to complain. This countrymen's voice is complaining. Why is it so? That even though they are working hard, luck is not favoring and they are not able to lead a life as the city flock. 47th line we see, I can't help owing the great relief it would be to put these people at one stroke out of the pain. So what is he saying? That the poet Robert Frost, he is pain stricken, as I told you. His heart is broken seeing the condition of the people. He is frustrated seeing the pain of this country flock of the villagers and he lost all hopes. He has time and again thought of. So but still he loses all the hopes. And so he is still in the other end is saying that lost the hope of what? Will the villagers ever be able to get the life what they are dreaming of? Will they ever be able to come out of the sufferings and pains what they are experiencing at one stroke? So what happens is he dreams, he feels that, why not me? What can I do to relieve this pain of these village flocks at one stroke? And so he is telling and he is saying that I can do, means with the help of money he is thinking that if money is the requirement, he would give some money to the villagers or whatever is required and might be the end would come. So he is saying, I can't help owning the great relief it would be to put these people at one stroke out of pain. I can't bear that. At one stroke, if I am able to relieve the pain of these people. And the next day as I come back into the scene, I wonder how I should like you to come to me and offer to put me gently out of pain. And what happens is, next day when the poet comes, he is in sanity. He has come back to senses. He realizes, what does it realizes? and he realizes that what if someone comes to him, or so what if sometimes he is in pain, in such sort of pain, and someone tries to bring him out of the pain and sufferings in the same way, then how would he feel? Okay, so that is what he is experiencing. And so even if the previous day he thought that he would relieve the pain of these people at one stroke, but next day he puts himself in the place of these people, that is the village flock, and thinks, what if someone comes to me when I am also suffering in the similar pain as these people are suffering, and then how would I feel? Okay, and that is how the last line, and offer me gently out of my pain, that is offers me or tries to help me to relieve me from the pain. So this the question mark remains in the mind of the poet, and thus Robert Frost doesn't trust the city dwellers. He has sort of ill feeling for the insensitivity, the selfishness of the people. He is not able to adjust that how can people be so inhuman, how can people neglect someone, how can people be so selfish, negligent, okay, and insensitive. These all thoughts starts developing in the mind of the readers. And this distancing, what distancing? Distancing between the rich and the poor here, of course, in this poem highlights the inhumanity of man towards man. So this is how the poem, The Roadside Stand, comes to an end. The stand here is significant to the life or the needs of the people, that erecting this stand, the people are trying to reach to certain extent to fulfill their needs, but a group of people are there, this insensitive, inhuman people who are least bothered or who are negligent towards these people, and the sorrow of these people keeps on increasing and increasing, and a distance between the urban and the rural remains everlasting. So I hope you enjoyed the poem. Thank you for watching. For more discussion or confusion, if it is, I am there to help you. Thank you. And in our next lecture, I'll be explaining the poetic devices